Stay free with Russell Brand. See it first on Rumble.
It's extraordinary and brilliant that you make the distinction between the American people and the American elites that operate on behalf of global corporatists. Wasn't it astonishing to see Zelensky crop up at the Golden Globes in a beautiful piece of propaganda? Isn't it alarming to hear Zelensky list the names of the global corporatists that will be charged with rebuilding Ukraine? JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, these great Goliaths listed as if they were the Avengers, as if they were great heroes on the world stage. Jimmy, before your participation today in this conversation, I thought that the list of demands that the anti-war rally that you're participating in were quite egregious and ridiculous. But having heard your oratory today, I think you might just get them. Let's have a look at the list of demands that the march on February the 19th are advocating for.
Those are pretty bold demands. I would like to invite anybody who's against the war in Ukraine, for whatever reason, to join us. So those are 10 demands. Those are pretty big demands. I think we might even be mixing some issues there. So I don't care what you feel about any of those other demands, but if you are against the war in Ukraine, I invite you to join us February 19th at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. If you're against war, show up. And if you're against the Ukraine war, that's the important thing. And I also want to challenge the people on the left, like the people who claim to be on the left but aren't. People like the Squad, people like AOC, people like Ro Khanna, who said he's against war, but he's for Ukraine, right? So I want them to look into their heart, their supposed lefty heart, and be against this Ukraine war, because this is nothing but a proxy war, and people are getting slaughtered by the tens of thousands. So if you're against war, show up. If you're against all the bad things happening because of war, which is like inflation, show up. And I, of course, support Julian Assange 100% because I support freedom of the press. And so if you're for the freedom of the press, show up. But you don't have to support, I don't think you have to support all those things. I just care if you're against the war. If you want to end the Ukraine war, show up. I don't think you have to agree with all those demands. Just be against the Ukraine war. That's all I care about. That's the important thing. And we can work on the other things.
Demands is dismantling the machinery of global capitalism. When we if you can support the rally, even if you can't join Jimmy and the others physically, by making a donation, we'll post the information in the chat if you're interested in doing that. When you see a list of radical demands like that, Jimmy, it makes it all the clearer that what's really required is a new political movement that is external to the Washington machine. It's impossible to have conversations about freedom of the press, freedom of the media, a true anti-war movement. The possibility, as we discussed last time you were on the show, of people that are anti-establishment coming together regardless of whether their views are progressive or traditional, left or right. We all have more in common with one another at this point than we do with these marginal establishment centralist elites that are dominating all of our institutions, dominating the narrative, and making even conversations like this one difficult. So I'm so grateful to have you on, to be able to have this chat, man.
Joe Biden has more in common with Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell than I have in common with him or Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has more in common than Mitch McConnell than she has with me. So let's keep that in mind, right? So yes, and right now, the only people speaking out against this Ukraine war or imperialism in general are people on the far right in the United States. People like Thomas Massey, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was pilloried, but she's right on Ukraine. And so I don't care if you're wrong on everything else. I don't care if I disagree with you on everything else. But if you're right about Ukraine and you realize that this is a proxy war that we need to end and stand up, then you can join us. And that's what I'm all about. February 19th, ending the war. United people in America don't want the war. Right now, the far right wing of the Republican Party just won the right to have votes on ending these wars. Now, before, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't let that happen, the Democrat. And that's because we have two right-wing parties in this country. We don't have a left-wing party in America. We have two pro-war, pro-Wall Street parties in America, anti-worker parties. And so That's where we're at in this culture, and why? Because again, I don't know what's happening over in Europe, but in the United States, our government is completely captured by corporations, and the military-industrial complex, at the snap of a finger, can get $100 billion sent to the most corrupt country in Europe, and we don't even know where that money's going. In fact, not only that we don't not know where it's going, but when people want to track the money, people in power in the United States, in our Congress, block that legislation at the behest of the military-industrial complex, so we can't even track where that. So this is 100% corruption, and that's the thing about Americans. They don't realize that. They think their government is regular corrupt, like, oh, Trump gave his son a job, Biden gave his son a job. That's regular corruption. What they don't realize is that the whole entire war is corrupt. It's all one big grift. What they don't realize is the entire military-industrial complex is a big grift. We spend 10 times more in our military than the rest of the goddamn world combined. We are completely corrupted in America. This is not any. People try to say, oh, we have to vote to save our democracy. We haven't had democracy in the United States for decades, and that is not hyperbole. Your government, your democracy was stolen from you decades ago, right? Which is why half the country is poor, low income, 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck, 50% of wage earners earn less than $30,000 a year. Nobody has, we still don't have health care in America. You go bankrupt if you get sick, you get bankrupt if you go to college, and we're spending endless trillions of dollars on empire and war while we still have people living under every bridge. You know, I get up in comedy clubs in Los Angeles where people don't know I'm going to be there, so they're not my fans. So when I get on stage, I'm talking to regular people, a cross-section of America, and I'll say, hey, you know, isn't it amazing we can send $100 billion to Ukraine? And you know, if we're sending $100 billion in weapons to a country, it's because we care about their people. Everybody laughs when I say that. And then I say, I don't care if they send $100 billion to Ukraine. I just wish they would send $100 billion to the United States. And the crowds go crazy because they realize we're living in a completely corrupted society. So what we need now is for people to lose all hope in the system. So what the AOC and Bernie Sanders are there to do is to keep you believing that the system is going to somehow serve you. It is not. The system is there to crush you while it extracts wealth upwards, which is exactly what they did with COVID. They did a thing called the CARES Act. That was their legislation to help people during COVID. What it was a $5 trillion grift that took money from the U.S. Treasury and gave it to the richest couple of thousand people in the country. You know, in other countries, when they did lockdowns, they made sure the workers got their paycheck. You know, they didn't do that in the United States. They did it in every other country except here. They just locked you down. Then they promised they were going to give you $2,000 in relief, and they didn't even do that. They gave you $1,400. So they've been crushing people in America. And what the establishment has been doing, they implemented a controlled demolition of our economy. And what they want you to do is blame your neighbor for the pain you're feeling because of that, because your neighbor wouldn't take a vaccine that didn't work the way they said it did in the first place. Well, I'm not going to hate my neighbor, and I'm not going to blame my neighbor for the pain I'm feeling because he's being crushed just like everybody else by the same oligarchs. I'm going to join with my neighbor, and I'm going to oppose the oligarchy. And that's the thing that scares them the most. When the left and the right realize we have more in common that separates us and we share a common enemy, that's actually how shit gets done. And that's why I'm inviting people from the Republican Party, people from the Democratic Party, from the Green Party. I hope the Green Party can show up and be anti-war. It would be nice to see the Green Party actually be anti-war. So I'm inviting everybody from all, I don't care if you're a socialist, a communist, a libertarian, a right-wing Republican, a left-wing Democrat. I implore you to show up and fight against the hegemony, the imperialism, the war machine that is raping the world and stealing our future.
Jimmy Dore there. What a fantastic set of speeches from Jimmy Dore. You can join him Rage Against the War Machine on Sunday, February the 19th, and you can support that. We'll put a link in the description if you're unable to attend. If you want to see Jimmy live, you can go to jimmydore.com right now to get your tickets to see Jimmy live. Jimmy, that was a really beautiful, inspiring, and invigorating. I mean, I think I essentially was a viewer for that incredible oratory. Thank you for your ongoing passion. Thanks for your brilliance. We're coming to your country soon. We're going to be in LA, Jimmy, so we'll come and check you if that's possible.
When? I would love to see you. Sure. Are you doing shows?
Yeah, maybe I'll come check. Like, if you're live, but around like the beginning of March, and we're going to be in the US from like the end of February, and then for the first week of March, I'd love to do some stand-up out there and see if you've got this unified hybrid audience that you're curating over there. I'd love to participate. Great work you're doing.
Okay. I'll set it up. I'll set up a show. I would love to have you.
Jimmy, thanks so much, man. Lots of love. Jimmy's on Rumble. You can watch Jimmy every day on Rumble as well.
Stay free with Russell Brand. See it first on Rumble.